Hi there, and welcome back to your Daily Market Podcast. My name is Maryklaire Pelk, and I am the Director of Operations for the GCU Finance and Econ Club. I'm here with Charlie Hurst and our special guest, Carter Workman. Why don't you guys go ahead and give us a quick introduction?
Hi, I'm Charlie Hurst. I am also the Director of Operations here at GCU, and I am a freshman.
Hi, I'm Carter Workman. I'm a sophomore here at GCU, and I'm the Director of Public Events for Finance and Econ.
Great. As per usual, we're going to go over the overall how the market performed today, as well as go over why that happened. And then as for our topic for today, we're going to be talking about networking and the benefits of it. So starting out, the S&P was up 2.51%, the Dow was up 2.85%, NASDAQ was up 2.81%, and oil prices were down 0.53%. Tell us a little bit about what this means, guys.
Yeah, so last night, I don't remember what time, it was later in the night, but President Trump announced that we are having a ceasefire. I think it was over a 2-week span that he said this was going to happen with Iran, and that the Strait of Hormuz, or however you pronounce it.
I think it's Hormuz. Yeah.
Hormuz. It was getting reopened so that we can have more trade.
Yeah. So I actually did some research before this, just because I don't know a lot about oil, but oil actually is in everything we use. It's in everything from production to medicine, to gas is a huge thing as well. We've seen gas prices increase a lot.
Definitely.
It's definitely hurting my wallet a little bit. But yeah. So.
Yeah, and the one thing to touch on, you brought up medicine.
Mhm.
So obviously oil's not in medicine, just so our viewers are
Yeah. Sorry. I
understand it.
didn't mean like that.
But the way it affects medicine is when you have these truck drivers that are having to pay more for gas, obviously because oil prices are up, then that raises medicine prices as well because it costs more to get that medicine to the pharmacies.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect that
Yeah,
affects
correct.
literally everything in our economy.
Yep.
So what risks or opportunities does this create for us as investors with what's going on right now and these changes that we've been seeing?
Yeah, so obviously the ceasefire was announced last night.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple hours ago, Iran is now claiming that Israel broke the ceasefire deal. And that directly affects the markets, obviously, because we were up almost 3% in a lot of these indexes. And now we might see a pullback tomorrow because now the ceasefire is broken and Iran is closing the Strait of Hormuz again. So this is going to directly affect, and obviously volatility is already super high, but it's going to be increased now because we thought that the markets were going one way today because the ceasefire deal happened. And now tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm assuming we're going to be down probably just as much as we were up today. So it could get interesting.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off that as well. I mean, with Israel breaking that ceasefire, just kind of making tensions even higher than they already were, which is making it very hard to predict what's going to happen in the future going forward.
Yeah. Do you have any guesses personally of things that you're watching that you want to touch on?
I think before this happened, investors were starting to feel a little more confident, so they're trying to go more towards tech stocks. I think they might pull that back a little bit just because it is so hard to tell what is going to happen, and they want something a little more secure, a little more safe. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, all of these things definitely have a big effect on the market. But moving forward to our topic for college students, making our podcast relatable, we're going to touch on networking today. So our opening question is defining what is networking. What does that mean?
Yeah, networking to me just means building relationships with different people in different industries, and then taking that and using those relationships to ultimately help you on later down the road, whether that be getting an internship, landing a job, even just building lasting friendships throughout your life.
Yeah, to touch on that, it's about just meeting as many people as you can and really letting them know who you are, having that elevator pitch, being able to sell yourself, and just being able to speak confidently to these. Maybe you're talking with somebody from Vanguard and they're obviously a lot smarter than you, but you need to be able to build a relationship and have that elevator pitch to elevate your persona.
So you said elevator pitch. What is that, if someone might not know what that is?
Yeah, so an elevator pitch, basically, it's not literal. So the whole idea comes from being able to sell yourself in about 30 seconds. So knowing your accomplishments, having them memorized, and really just being able to sell that in a short period of time, because you're not going to be able to talk to these people for an hour and have like a really good conversation with them, but you're going to be able to talk to them and stop to talk to them for about 30 seconds. And being able to sell yourself with that 30 seconds is super important.
Kind of going off that, it's just kind of who you are, what you've done, and what you can do for them in that 30-second time period, as well as networking too. It's kind of cliche, but it's not who you know, it's who knows you, as well as people always remember how you made them feel because of what you said to them. So kind of having that in the back of your mind.
So what types of things would you recommend someone talk about in an elevator pitch? How would you maybe personally position yourself in that situation?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is not trying to have an ego in that situation, because obviously you want to get your accomplishments across, but some people might not want to hear about that and they want a more personal connection. So if you just go and talk to somebody and say, "Oh, this is what I did, like this is a huge accomplishment," they're not going to really want to hear about that. They're going to want to have a more personal conversation or something that they can build off of.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, don't have a huge ego, but you also confidence is key going into it. You need to know your worth, and you need to be able to prove that to a potential employer.
So these words are always thrown around the finance industry. So why is this so important in the finance industry specifically?
I think part of finance is it is numbers obviously, but it's also such a relationship oriented industry. Like you can have straight A's, that can get you in the door, but it's what do you do from there once you're in the door, right? And I think from there, that's where the networking skills, the relationship building skills, that's where you can excel past everyone else. Because yes, good grades are good. I'm not saying give bad grades, but everyone has good grades. Like if it's just good grades, it's just like pulling a name out of a hat. Like your chances are pretty slim of actually going past that.
Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to touch on is how psychological the differences can be in the way that people treat their money. And if you become personable with people, like through networking and becoming memorable in the things that you guys are saying, I feel it would make it much easier for that person to feel like they can relate to you.
Yeah, and obviously in finance, a lot of the job is having a client. So especially with like a financial advisor, you're going to have a client, you're going to want to get to know them, and you're really going to want to make them feel comfortable that you're taking care of their money and that you know what you're doing in that field, as well as with your other coworkers. Like financial advisor always needs an accountant. The accountant, they have to have a good relationship with that accountant as well, so that the financial advisor can manage the money, and then the accountant can obviously help with the taxes and that side of things.
And then kind of just go off that. I mean, especially for financial advising, that's the field I'm trying to go into. It's always the age-old question is how can you build trust with a client? Why should I, some 20-year-old kid, manage your $10 million, right? And if you're personal and you can relate to them on some kind of level, then that trust starts to build, and then over time, it just keeps building on itself.
Yeah, so where would you recommend people go for to do this type of networking? Is it LinkedIn, events, internships, classes? Like, where would the best way to go about it be?
I think everything you just touched on is perfect. I mean, obviously, to plug the Finance and Economics Club, I mean, we have so many great speakers come in from these firms, and obviously Carter does a lot of the event planning. So he does a great job with that. He's able to really connect with these firms. And if you just come to one of our events, you will meet so many people, not just students from the club, but you'll also be able to talk to these people that have a foundation in their firm and really learn from them. As well as the internship side, you have to like work really hard to get that internship, but once you get it, you're going to be in a room full of really smart people and you can learn from all of them.
Yeah, you touched on Carter's position as in public events. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the club does for that and what opportunities that presents for you and for members of the club or even just the people attending the meetings?
Yeah, so as director of public events, I reach out to different firms and companies and try to get them to host a event here on campus. Usually we do sponsor that event, so we'll have food and some Celsius as well to try and get better attendance. Yeah, we invite firm professionals in. We have them talk a little about what they do, why they do it. We give time for our students to connect with them one on one. Ask them any kind of questions they want, as well as um, build relationships with other students as well. And then from there, especially on my team, you're directly reaching out to, let's say, an advisor in this case. So then if that advisor does come to campus, be like, hey, like, my name's Carter. Like, oh, yeah, Carter. Like, I was emailing you in contact with you. Like, how are you doing or something like that. So I think being a part of a public events team helps you kind of get your name out there a little more as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Was there any time that your networking created an opportunity for you that you can remember?
Yeah, so actually at our career fair last semester, I went up to the Blue Trust table and I started talking to one of the advisors named Ben Hahn, and it was kind of a really relaxed conversation. I was just, he asked me where I'm from. I said Washington. He's also from Washington, so that's kind of when we started talking. And then from there, he put me into contact with one of the advisors there named Ed Cahill at the Seattle office for Blue Trust. So from there, and then from there, I set up a coffee chat with him, and then kind of from there streamline that to multiple coffee chats with all different people in that office, and then that eventually led to me getting an internship there.
That's incredible.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
So, coffee chat. Talk about
Yeah.
that. What is it? What do you do? How do you set that up?
Yeah, it sounds more complicated than what it is. It's not like an actual like coffee date or anything, unless you want it to be. I just do mine over Zoom. It's easiest that way. Just send them an email saying like, hey, I'd love to have 30 minutes of your time if possible for a little coffee chat over Zoom. And then through there, kind of what I do. I'm kind of lazy, so what I do is I just use ChatGPT and I just like give me a couple questions to ask. And then as long as you're respectful, you can keep, I guess it is over computer, but keep eye contact with the person you're talking to, dress at least somewhat professionally. And as long as you can keep a conversation going, the relationship naturally just tends to build over time. And then from that, actually, one of the advisors I talk to is kind of like a mentor for me now. So
That's amazing.
That's really cool.
How would you recommend following up with that? Like, so you set up the coffee chat, you attend. Is there any next steps after that you want to touch on?
yeah, I mean, it kind of depends if you're interested in the industry that they're in. If you are, I would try to reach out and say like, hey, I would love to schedule another chat sometime, even if it's not like business. Like I was talking about, I actually met at our Goldbook Financial event that we hosted here. I met one of the advisors from Goldbook Financial. He went to my high school, so that was insane.
That's cool.
And we were just talking about our hometown. So we were both from Snoqualmie, Washington. We both attended Mount High School. And he was like, hey, like if I ever come back for summer, like I'll let you know and like let's get lunch sometime.
That's amazing.
So kind of just
cool.
keeping that. It's not necessarily like a day by day basis, but like maybe once a month you're checking in saying like, hey, how are you doing? Like I'd love to just chat sometime. Something like that.
That's amazing. Yeah. So now that we've talked about the good and what to do correctly, let's talk about the mistakes. What do you recommend we steer clear from, and things that you maybe have made in the past or seen other people do that has not led to the best opportunities?
Yeah, I would avoid. It's kind of a mixed bag with the whole cold emailing process. You get a lot of people, like majority of people that don't respond. It's pretty humbling.
Yeah.
But through that, I actually found a lot of success. People were, for the most part, pretty helpful and would reach back out. I haven't had great success on LinkedIn, like messaging. I would steer clear of that if I were to do it over again. But I think the biggest thing for me was just going back to the whole coffee chat idea and kind of just kind of spamming as many of those as I can just to learn the most about the industry. And sometimes it's not a convenient time, like I did one at 5 a.m. one time because they were on the East Coast. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So
Yeah, I think that's good.
Any other mistakes that you've seen, Charlie?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes is when you're actually reaching out to these people, you got to make it personal, because these people aren't going to want to hear, hey, just something super basic. Like they're not going to, if you just reach out and be like, hey, is there like any internships open, or something simple like, hey, do you want to set up this coffee chat? You need to have like a good question, I think, right? And if you ask a good personal question and make a personal relationship with these people, then I think that can really help you.
I forgot to mention one thing. Never reach out and say, hey, do you have any internships? Never say that. Always start with getting to know the person first, and then from there starting to kind of integrate and ask questions like, hey, do you guys have an internship process? What does that look like? But yeah.
So what would an example of a good first message, first touch be?
I think it's always got to be a question. I think if you can find a reason that you're reaching out to these people with a solid question, then you can really get it to a personal conversation rather than a business conversation right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of just going off that. Sorry, I'm blanking. What was the question?
For a good first touch, first thing to reach out, what are you saying?
Oh yeah, I like the idea of a question, and I think it's just learning about the industry. Like all I would do is I just like, hey, like I'd love to learn as much as I can. Kind of, I use the vision of like being like a sponge, kind of soaking up as much information as you can. And then just being respectful and thanking them for their time, because obviously they're taking time out of their day to help you.
Yeah, I think one other thing to touch on as well is also don't reach out to them and be like, hey, this is what I've done. Is there any other opportunities? Because if they have your LinkedIn, they can already see all your accomplishments. If you're just trying to talk yourself up, then it's not going to look good. They want to talk about themselves. So if you can get them to talk about themselves and learn as much as you can about them. Actually, Jackson Roeder talked about this a lot when he was the president of the finance club. But yeah, if you can just make it personal for them, I think that's really good.
I think another thing too is with the whole internship process, I kind of said earlier, like picking your name out of a hat. Or at least from I've heard, if you are just applying and hoping you get it, you're not going to get it. The success rate is very, very low. I would say to young students out there who are hoping to get an internship maybe next summer is like going back to the whole coffee shop idea, building those relationships first. That way, when you do apply for an internship, someone at that firm or company can look at the applicants and say, oh, like Carter Workman, I talked to him. Like he's a really cool guy. He knows what he's talking about. Let's get him over to the next step of the process.
Mm-hmm. Was there any other special tips that you have for anybody starting out?
Just take advantage of all the opportunities you have. Obviously, we have events, about once a week, once every 2 weeks?
I would say, if not once a week, every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, obviously, any event related to your major, I think you should go take advantage of that just because you're able to build so many relationships from them.
Going off that, too, I mean, I get if you're busy and you can't make it, but there really is no downside to coming to any of the events. I mean, you're only helping yourself by going to them.
And you're putting yourself, even if you don't know anybody there, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, which when you go and step into your first job, it's going to be an uncomfortable situation. You're going to know nobody. Maybe you know your boss a little bit, but you're going to have to make new relationships from scratch and be able to build those up.
Yeah. I think it's such a valuable skill, just being uncomfortable, because people don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable, but if you can just calm yourself down and being uncomfortable, you'll be so successful.
Yeah, you're never going to grow if you don't get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Like, even like the event last night, like public speaking, like I hate public speaking, but sometimes you just gotta just breathe and just get through it.
And look, you're on a podcast.
Yeah.
You got some practice.
Well, all right. I think that wraps up our Daily Market podcast. I hope you have something to take away.